Alright, well, my name is Larry Correia, and I am super happy to be here. I love LTUE. The one thing at LTUE I've never done is this is the very first banquet I've been here. So I've been to 9 LTUEs in a row, and this is the first time I've been to a banquet. I think Dave Deering finally figured out how to get me here. Okay, so first off, I would just like to say thank you to all the many people who put in the work to make this conference. So if I could get everybody in here who was a volunteer, on the committee, who worked on LTU in any way to stand up and take it back. Sincerely, you guys put in so much work and you put in so much effort, and you've put on this great conference for 35.01 years. I was talking to Dave earlier about that. You guys have done a fantastic job, and you should be proud of yourself for all the work that you put in. Thank you very much. And now, anybody who's a panelist, anybody who volunteered to be a panelist, anybody who's a guest, who here is a panelist? Stand up. Okay, now these guys that just stood up, they're a bunch of working professional writers and editors and creative type people who they volunteer their time to come and to serve and to get their knowledge out there for everyone to see, and it's very appreciated. And I just want to talk a little about my experience as a reader, as a writer, and what LTUE means to me. So, by way of background, I grew up in the San Joaquin Valley, California. Anybody who's familiar with that area, it's not the cool part of California they put on TV shows, it's part of the cows. And I think the leading product, the leading export product of my home county now is meth. But as I was growing up there, I grew up on a farm, and we were out in the sticks in this little tiny town in the middle of nowhere, and it wasn't a very hopeful place. And it wasn't a place where, I didn't come from a bunch of people where the culture really appreciated things like literacy or reading. Reading was the kind of thing that sissies did to get out of work and to get out of proper manly activities like beer drinking and cow punching. But I was a fat asthmatic kid, so I discovered books. No, seriously, my mom was a reader, for that I was very thankful. And in our little crappy town, we had a very old, tiny library. And they started taking me there when I was really little, and I discovered the joy of fiction. And books were this amazing outlet to a bigger, wider world that wasn't filled with dairy cows. That was fascinating. And so I read everything that was there. And in fact, my mom didn't believe me because I was 8 years old when I read Dune. And she actually had to go and read the book and then quiz me because she thought I was lying. But no, it was legit. And I read and read and read, and it gave me this just view of a wider world, and it sucked me in. It was fascinating. And then I discovered interlibrary loan, which was like, holy crap, I can get even more stuff. And my dad, bless his heart, my dad has about 4th grade reading level. He doesn't read. He's never read a book for fun in his life. The idea of reading just eludes him. And but he always encouraged me. I was allowed to spend my own money on Louis L'Amour Westerns because they were awesome and manly. And plus, he watched the movies with Tom Selleck. And so I grew up reading all this stuff, and it was fascinating. It was amazing, and I discovered that storytelling was cool. And I started telling stories to other kids. And I started illustrating my own stories. I still have them, actually. It's kind of cool. But one of these days, they'll be worth, after I die, they'll be worth a lot on eBay, I hope. So I started telling stories to other kids, like, wow, this is really cool. And they enjoyed it. And I think that was the moment where I realized that, wow, storytelling is rewarding. I got rewarded by reading all this fun stuff, and other people are enjoying it when I'm entertaining them. Oh my gosh, this is so cool. I want to tell stories when I grow up. And, life went on, and I moved to Utah and did a lot of stuff, and, had life experiences, and didn't write for many, many years. And one day I decided to try my hand at it, and actually did pretty good. And, I never went to any writing conferences. I hated English class. I never had any training or anything like that. I was just kind of blundered along, self-taught over many years. And then one day I actually wrote a novel, and it turned out pretty good. And everybody rejected it, and then I self-published it, and it did pretty good. And pretty cool. It got picked up by a publishing house. And at that point, I was like, wow, I should probably learn more about this writing thing. So I discovered that there were things called cons. There was conventions where people got together to talk about writing stuff, and about all these books that I had read. It's like, cool. And at this point, I'm in my mid-30s. And when I finally discovered conventions. And one of the very first conventions I went to was here in Utah. It was Mountain Con. It was the first con, last year they ever had that. Went there, and it was fascinating. It was interesting. I met a lot of really cool writers. I met a guy named Brandon Sanderson. He was the very first author who never took the time to give me any career advice. And he actually took me out to lunch because he said, "Oh, you got a book deal. Well, I'd like to take the time to tell you the stuff that I wish that I had known 6 years ago when I got my first book deal." Great. So we went out to lunch. This guy was very helpful, wonderful guy. And they told me, he's like, there's this thing in Provo every year called LTUE. And it's just a bunch of writers. Because I'll be honest, I was a little freaked out at Mountain Con because there were people in costume. And I was like, oh, what the crap is going on? And there was like movie people and like weird stuff. And I don't know, it's just weird, man. It's not my style. And so I was like, okay, I'll check out this LTUE. That was 9 years ago, first one I went to. And I was absolutely blown away. I was stunned. There was so much information. It was like a drinking from a fire hose of information. I was a young, well, not young, relatively new. I was a new writer. And I went there and I was listening to people, and it was so crazy. These people who created the stories that I grew up reading, the people that inspired me to do stuff with my life, the people who inspired me to get the heck out of El Nido, California, and actually have interesting experiences, were here talking about their stuff. How amazing is that? And it was just fantastic. And then the next thing I knew, the next year they invited me to come back and ask, hey, you sold a book, you want to talk? Whoa, I'm just going to want to listen to my crap. But I've had just a love of LTUE, like I said, for 9 years now. And honestly, what we have here is so special. And in the years since, I've written a lot more books, and I've been to 40, I believe, on book tours. I've been to 40 states and 4 foreign countries now. And one of the interesting things, everywhere I go, I get this common thing of, why are there so dang many writers from Utah? And you'll see this all over the places. Like, you think about it, there's all these best-selling writers, all these successful writers. So I'll go to, I'll be in Minneapolis, Minnesota signing books. And people start talking about, yeah, Utah, I mean, you guys have like, Dan Wells is there. Jessica J. George is there. And then they start listing off the giant, you guys have Dave Farland is there, and Lee Modeston is there. Why do you guys have all the writers? For a little tiny state with only 2.5 million people in it, we have this crazy disproportionate number of writers. And I think one of the biggest reasons, and the answer that I always give these people is, we have the best community in the country for helping out new and aspiring authors. So basically 35.01 years ago, a young student at BYU decided to put together a project to just get some writers together and to learn from them. And it's grown every year. And it was on the BYU campus for many years, and then it kind of outgrew that, and then we were at the UVU campus for a little while, and it outgrew that, and now we're here, and who knows what the future holds. It's absolutely fascinating. And in the years I've been going here, it's one of the neat things has been I've been able to watch people come in like I was, or earlier they hadn't sold anything yet, or maybe it's people who just wanted to learn to write. And I would see them from year to year to year. I would actually watch these people, I'd meet them, and I would watch them grow. And I think we've all seen that here, where we see somebody 1 year and they're like, I would like to write a book. Then 2 years later, I run into them at LTUE again. Hey, I wrote a book, here's a copy. And then 2 years later, they're like, hey, yeah, I've written 7 books, and now I quit my day job. And I'm a writer, I get to tell stories. So LTUE has been this wonderful tool. And one of the things I want to say is I want to share with you guys some of the things I've seen for those successful people, the people who've made it. There's kind of a division. There's basically two types of people that like to go to stuff like this. And there's nothing wrong with either. But the first group, I see a lot of people that they like the idea of being a writer. They like the social aspect of being a writer. They like being able to say that they're a writer. But that's kind of it. And I'll see these people, and 7 years ago, they're like, well, I haven't written a book yet, but I'm going to start. 6 years ago, I wrote a little bit, but 5 years ago, it's like, well, I'm kind of working on it. And I see him yesterday, and it's like, yeah, I'm still kind of working on the outline. And I was like, okay, that's fine. This guy enjoys the social aspect. He enjoys hanging out with writers. He enjoys listening to writers. There's nothing wrong with that. That's awesome. Good for you. I'm glad you're happy. But then on the other hand, there's people who would like to actually make this a career. They're the people who want to share the kind of stories that they grew up reading, the stories that inspired them. They want to be able to get their stories in the library for all the little poor kids in the middle of nowhere. And so what I see that unites those people, the people that I've seen grow and get better and get successful and get their books out there and get audience and get read, there's just a few things. First and foremost, the best piece of writing advice I ever got, and this is shared by all the successful ones, is be prolific. That's what Kevin J. Anderson told me when I was first starting out. But the people who were doing that, he makes us all look like schlubs, okay? So while I was giving this talk, Kevin J. Anderson narrated another book. The people who write, the people who want to tell stories, they write. That's the key. They get their butt in the seat, hands on the keyboard, and they produce, and they make words. And you know what? It's going to suck, and they fail, and they write bad stuff, and they go up the wrong hill and have to come back down, and they write 10,000 words, and it turns out to be garbage, and they have to go back and delete it. That's fine. But by golly, the next day, they do it again. And those are the people that I come back year after year after year, and it makes my heart so glad to see them, and to see them grow, and to see them get better, and to see people that 4 years ago were total noobs are now sitting on the panel next to me telling everybody about all their awesome new projects. That's wonderful. And all those people are because they write and they're productive. Another part is their profession. They treat it as a job. They treat it as a living. They make it their career and they do it. One of my favorite LTUE success stories is a guy named Dave Butler. You guys know Dave? Yeah. Dave, unfortunately, couldn't try to embarrass him in person. He's at Pensacola, poor guy. So, Dave Butler, I believe it was 6 years ago. I might not be right about that. 6 years ago, Dave Butler was a lawyer, and he was just in attorney, but he really wanted to write. And he had heard about this LTUE thing, and he decided he was going to get the inside track. This is where he was pretty sharp. This is a smart lawyer, businessman. He said, okay, it's one thing to sit on the panel and listen to all these smart people, but I want to get the one-on-one scoop, how to really do this. And he figured, what does everyone love? Sandwiches. So Dave Butler found out, okay, where do all the writers hide when they're not on panels? They're on the green room. So Dave went and bought a whole bunch of sandwiches. Then he went into the green room and delivered sandwiches. Because obviously, the non-writer's not going to get tossed out of the green room if he shows up with sandwiches. And so this guy walks in and is like, I'd like to be a writer. I have sandwiches. I was actually on a panel when this happened, so I did not actually get to see this myself. And the rest of you guys ate the sandwiches before I got there. So Dave Butler comes in, 6'8", 6'12" with his hat, mustache like Tom Selleck, okay, magnificent specimen. Walks in there, I have sandwiches, teach me how to write. And you know what? He sat down and just had a conversation about how to write. And then became a self-published author, and every year he's back here and he's learning, he's growing, he's producing, he's making words. And he self-published a bunch of books, and then he sold a book to a publishing house, and then he sold another book to another publishing house, and now he's got a book coming out of my publishing house in a couple months. That's amazing. And worked his butt off. He learned, he grew, he improved his craft. So be like Dave. Except shorter. With sandwiches. But here's the beautiful thing. You do not need sandwiches to be a successful author. Because he actually didn't need to bribe. Bribery is always appreciated. But Dave, the conversation he had with those writers is the same exact conversation that all the new aspiring authors are having on every couch out there, or around the bar, or every table, or outside the doors at every single panel at LTUE. All day, every day for 3 days. It's a bunch of nerds, happy to be here, happy to tell stories. We all grew up reading stories, we all grew up learning stories. At some point we decided we wanted to tell stories, we wanted to share the joy that we had, and it's contagious. And those people who stood up and took a bow at the beginning, the volunteers, they understand that, they get that. That's why they put in the hours, that's why they put in the time. That's why Dave Deering created this. And those guests, the people that took the time out of their busy writerly schedules to come here and share their knowledge, they do it because they love it. They love stories, and they love each other, and they love you. So, sorry, I got emotional there. That's probably because I've been staying up till 2 a.m. every night playing role-playing games, but that's the other advantage. Really, we should have the banquet the first day, so it's not after we're all incoherent after 2 a.m. But guys, we have an amazing resource here. We have a wonderful thing. LTUE is truly unique. There's nothing else out there really like it, and we're so lucky to have it here in Utah. And really, it's why we have so many good storytellers, and it's why we were able to create all these new stories for a whole new generation of little kids out there going to the little crappy middle of nowhere libraries. You are entertainers. You're putting joy into the hearts of people. You're inspiring them. You're giving them ideas. You're encouraging them to think. You're encouraging them to expand their horizons. And that truly is a powerful and amazing thing. We all learn different things from stories. Stories are how we learn, stories are how we communicate. And so be proud. Be proud to be a member of this organization. Be proud of those, those of you who put in the work to make this happen for all of us. Truly appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming to LTV.